Meccano, part number 103A, flat girder in post-war green. Hi, if you want even more Meccano goodness, why don't you check out my Patreon channel? And please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. I post updates in the community section, not only for this week's Patreon build, but also for what I'm currently working on. Thank you, and back to the build. Hi, and welcome back. I've talked from time to time about what I've done in my life. I had the honour of being employed by the ambulance service in Durham at one point. And I was taught to be a driver. Not a vehicle operator, but a driver. Now, I didn't do anything fancy. I wasn't a paramedic. Didn't drive ambulances as such. I was classified as a light response driver. So, what is meant to be non-urgent calls, predominantly ferrying doctors around. We still attended a lot of life and death cases, mostly heart attacks, a few RTAs, including my first brush with death at a fatal crash we came across when heading to another job one bitterly cold night. That fatal still wakes me most nights. Even though it's nearly 30 years in the past, I'm still trying to find the young driver who was ejected from the car. It wasn't until the following morning when a police officer was able to locate the body. But my fastest run, the run that sticks in my head the most, was my daughter. She wasn't even one when she contracted septicemia. What at first looked like chickenpox wasn't. It was impetigo. The young doctor who first treated her misdiagnosed her, having never seen impetigo before, and the treatment for chickenpox helped spread the infection all over her body. We finally got an older doctor who took one look at her and called for an ambulance. The response time was going to be an hour. The hospital was only 12 miles away. I drove it in around 6 minutes. The road was nearly empty. I used all my training while trying to push my instincts as a father to the darkest parts of my mind. All the skills I'd been taught were used, from hotboxing the transmission, that's where your foot never leaves the go faster pedal. I crowned each bend with a perfect line, easy in, and accelerate as you leave. Don't know how many cars I passed. I just knew I had to get there fast. I left the car, key still in it, in the car park, and ran with her in my arms into the hospital, to be met by a team of what is, in my mind, superheroes. I spent the next 24 hours unable to hold her, to even touch her, as she fought for her life. She's still here, making my life as stressful as ever, and I'm thankful for that. The nurses and doctors that fought so hard to save her life, names I don't think I ever learned. And thank you isn't enough to show how I feel. The road I drove that night is an old road, even by the standards of what we call old in Britain. The first half was the old Roman bed, Watling Street, that runs through Ledgate, a village on the outskirts of Consett, to the village of Lanchester. It's just about as straight as you can get, and is nearly 2,000 years old. Then after Lanchester, it was on to Durham. That road shows in a book of old maps I have that dates back about 700 years. Not so straight when you drive it, as I do now, a lot slower than on that day. Then I made the journey as straight as I could. But with the collapse of the Roman Empire, we lost the ability to make roads. We still had the remains of what they'd made, but by the end of the Dark Ages, even they had all but disappeared. Throughout the medieval period, as the skills needed to repair them had been lost. From the collapse in the 5th century, it took over 1,000 years to rediscover the method of building a road network scientifically, and that honour falls at the feet of a French engineer, Pierre-Marie Jérôme Trezenguet. His method created a practice that could be repeated time and time again, and was published in 1775. Around the same time that John Metcalfe was working on road construction in Britain. Unlike Trezenguet, Metcalfe could never explain his method of costing the work and calculating the materials needed for the construction of the roads to anybody. Thomas Telford worked on the problem some 50 years later and improved in Trezenguet's methods. He did much to modernise British roads in the early part of the 19th century. His method of over-engineering the foundation of the road made the process building slower, but nearly doubled the speed of coaches travelling on them, reducing the time taken for the Royal Mail coach from 45 hours to 27 when travelling from Holyhead to London. Followed by the work of John McAdam a few years later, he took Telford's work, removed the foundation and drastically reduced construction time. He decreased the camber of the road, the height from the centre to the drainage ditch at the side, to just 3 inches. His major breakthrough was understanding the importance of the top coating. In his case, he used small rocks, each no larger than 3/4 of an inch or 20 millimetres. He held that the traffic alone would bed the rocks together to form a surface that would be resilient to both traffic and weather. He was proved correct, and his roads lasted far better than Thomas Telford's. But to achieve this level service, a tool was required. I wonder if it happened one morning while spreading butter onto a slice of toast, where an engineer thought, "Hold on," and the road grader was born. The early graders were either pulled by horse or even by hand when no other form of power was available. But in essence, that's all it is, a knife-like blade to scrape the surface to one uniformed grade. The earliest seems to have been invented by Joseph D. Adams of Indianapolis in 1885 and was called the Little Wonder, costing somewhere in the region of $200. It was horse-drawn. Not long after, they were mounted behind traction engines as a trailer to be dragged. In the early part of the 20th century, the Russell Grader Manufacturing Company invented the first motorised grader. It was basically a modified tractor with a grading blade fitted. Soon other companies followed suit, with their own designs along similar lines. It wasn't until 1928, when Caterpillar purchased the Russell Grader Manufacturing Company, that the first purpose-built grader was designed, and unlike other models, it was fitted with rubber tyres, a new technology that was coming out of the automobile industry. But there was a flaw in the design. Up to this point, the blade was controlled by hand cranks. As graders improved and could work faster, it was becoming difficult to control the pitch of the blade, at times jarring the blades loose, creating a bad grade on the roadbed, which meant the work had to be carried out again. But in the 1930s, powered controls were added for the first time, using the new technology of hydraulic power systems. World War II saw graders build air bases all over the Pacific in the campaign against the Japanese. Post-war, with the growth of the motorway in Britain and the highway in America, saw the creation of the true giants, monsters that would move Earth, if not the heavens. 1955 saw the creation of the T-700. No, not the Terminator, but a grader built by the Gallen Ironworks Manufacturing Company, weighing in at £40,000 or 20 tons. It stood tall for a number of years until the Giant was developed by Raygo Inc. Its blade was double articulated and it weighed in at 106,000 pounds or 56 tons. Again, the Giant was the largest machine until 1975, when Champion Roach Machinery Limited built the 100T, weighing in at 202,000 pounds or 101 tons with a 24-foot blade. Now Caterpillar has the record with the 24H. Its blade is the same size as the 100T, but technology has caught up and its weight is around half that of the former. Road building is a mark of civilization. It's how we get our goods to market and export them further afield. And without it, we would be hunter-gatherers and this channel wouldn't exist. I would have too many pressing concerns around everyday survival than building Meccano and stabbing myself in the hand, which I did yesterday while building this week's models. But why do we not see road graders anymore in road manufacturing, especially in developed countries? And why was there a sudden need of them in the latter part of the 19th century? To answer the last question first, in America, the Good Roads movement was formed late in the century by a group called the League of American Wheelmen. No, they weren't a secret group of heroes working to overthrow an evil enemy. They were cyclists. And at the turn of the century, with the invention of the automobile adding to the lobbying, they changed the face of America and also that of many other countries. And to answer the first question, now that we have the roads, we no longer need the graders. Their job is done. Or is it? Because they still live amongst us, hidden in plain sight, yearly working to save our lives and maintain our roads in the worst of conditions at a time where we wouldn't want to be driving. More than once I've sat tucked in behind one, travelling as fast as the conditions would allow us, running to a heart attack victim, knowing that the minutes matter. These days they are our snowplows. They work tirelessly in the depths of winter, driven by people who have families, but still put themselves in harm's way to allow us to go about our daily lives. So next time you get stuck behind one in winter, just remember that it is an American invention that has saved untold lives. It has changed the face of countries all over the world, and without it, our roads would be a nightmare in winter.